The best nerf, in my opinion, was the Ed one, because I'm tired of all these Ed players just mashing these moves with no hurt boxes.
They're doubling down on the throw loops, right? Like, the only thing related to throws was they made them stronger.
SF6 has got to be the hardest game to call, what's going to be Grand Finals. I'm not calling the game random.
He qualified for Capcom Cup, and they dropped him before Capcom Cup happened. Does that show you that it doesn't matter?
All the other competitors, like the Overwatch players, StarCraft players, they're all on PC. I mean, if we got to play at like 4 in the morning to get, good Street Fighter matches, I'll take their PCs after they're done at the same time and just play after them.
What's going on, everybody? This is whatever this is. I'm calling this extra trashy right now. I had kind of cornered myself in with the Trash Talk podcast format by doing all of the interview segments. But I also want to have an avenue here just to talk about fighting games, the community, things happening. So I figured, why not have the very first guest on Trash Talk back for this one, Lord Idom. How's it going, Idom?
What's up? How's everyone doing? I'm doing pretty good.
Is it how do they say it in New York? Is it brick outside?
Oh, it's yeah, it actually just snowed last night, funny enough.
Oh, interesting. So did I use that correctly? You say it's brick outside? Is that the thing to say?
It's brick because it's so cold that it feels like brick. So whenever you're like walking, it's just I don't know. I don't know who invented it, to be honest, but everyone says it now, so it just caught on. It's like, locking in. Like, locking in is actually a new term that these kids will just make up anything. Somebody in my stream one time tried to tell me what a skippity toilet is, and I was like, I don't even care.
Well, you're not up to date on the skibbity toilet Riz Master. You gotta know the lore, man.
I saw the Zerna clip about the skippity toilet, and I was just like, I might be getting old again.
Well, don't worry. I think they're banning TikTok finally. We might be saved. Who knows? I think come January they got to make a decision on that. So it might be the end of Skibbity Toilet Riz Master. Who knows? But anyways, fighting games. Okay, so last time you were on, we kind of just talked about your history, so we didn't get to delve into any recent events. But the balance patch happened, the most recent one. Capcom calling it a minor balance patch, but I feel like this was the biggest patch we've had, except for the Season 2 one itself. Did you feel that way? Because I was like, they promised, they under-promised and over-delivered with this one, because I was like, wow, when the patch notes came out, they actually did a ton of changes.
It was kind of just calling it the biggest balance patch when there was like two small ones. Like you had the Terry balance patch where it's like, I thought that patch was cool because no one was expecting it. It was kind of like out of left field. So it was like, oh, wow, they actually, changed something. So that one was cool. But this one, it was nice to have. But at the same time, I feel like could have been better, could have been bigger, I guess.
Well, I mean, they did say it was going to be not that big, right? I guess considering that they actually, for the first time, it felt like Capcom kind of approached this from the right angle from their communication standpoint, because they undersold it. And I feel like in every other iteration of any kind of update, any kind of communication with the community, they don't know how to undersell things, right? So like people's imagination start running wild with opportunities. Like, oh, there's something coming up. And then it ends up being Avatar costumes, like another fucking Chipotle burrito, like something that nobody cares about. And then everyone's pissed off. So I feel like for this time, they finally nailed the messaging by saying, hey, a minor balance patch is coming. Because this is, I do agree, in terms of scale, like looking back to Street Fighter V, this is a very minor balance patch. And I think in general, all the balance patches are actually extremely minor because they don't hit on the core mechanics of the gameplay, and therefore things don't change that much. So with that in mind, this is kind of big, relatively. Because Season 2 was not that big of a balance patch in hindsight. I don't know if you feel the same way.
It really wasn't. Like, I was expecting so much more of a dynamic change. You know how, like, in Street Fighter V, Season 1 to Season 2, we lost meterless DP, so it was like, wait a minute, what are they doing? Why would they, change that? This one was kind of like, here's Wake Up Drive reversal, and I was like, this isn't gonna, do much. This is just, so it's such a minor change, but I guess from the minor balance patches, like it's a step in the right direction. I do like it more than how it was in Season 1, where we were just kind of like, oh, this is the game, you're gonna play this for a year, and If you don't like it, go play something else, kind of thing. So it's a bit better, but it could have been. I still think it's on the could have been bigger kind of side.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But I guess I still respect that for a minor balance patch. It felt like a good patch in the right direction. Like, I liked the nerfs to Rashid and Ken. And I think even though they're still not going for like the gut punch, they're still not hitting like the low forward drive rush yet or trying to like modify that meta. Because it feels like this is what the game is supposed to be. They want the game to be drive rush, like low forward drive rush cancels to get in for plus frames and throws, or raw drive rush for, that's your mix up in neutral. That's the core of the gameplay, and I don't expect it to change. I'd be so surprised at this point if they make some kind of mechanic change to alter the risk reward on those mechanics. But at
Really,
least they are.
Oh,
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's always the games usually that I've played, like, is like you have the season one meta where it's like, this is gonna happen. Like from playing Street Fighter, like DPs, Invul, super strong, Chun-Li, Ryu, Ken, all really good. And then, season two comes around, Degen, haha, V-Trigger, Balrog punch, Laura mashing medium kick into V-Trigger, Ibuki, unseeable mix-up. So it's like, it kind of took the game and turned it on its head. Even kind of with Dragon Ball as well, like playing Dragon Ball Fighters, it was, double super first season. And then we got snapback meta in second season. And it's like, this doesn't feel like the same game at all. But Street Fighter 6, it was low forward drive rush meta. Season 2, low forward drive rush meta.
Right.
And it's weird, but I do hope like the meta will evolve, hopefully, and something will change.
I just don't think it will. That's my conclusion, right? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying this is facts how it's going to be, but my impression is from season 1, the fact that they made no attempt to tone down drive rush at all. To me, that's the clear indication that this game is finished, right?
No.
Like in terms of the flow of the game is done, and from here on out, they might make this move more plus or minus. They might change the Oki advantage after this move, but I think the system mechanics are done. I think they want the game to be centered around 100% the drive rush mechanics. And I could be wrong. It could just be very early. It just feels like, and this is the impression I always had, is that Street Fighter 6 released in too strong of a state, which is a weird thing to say, but I feel like every other game was so much worse, so they had a lot more freedom to go with the balance patches going forward.
I tell that to my stream all the time. I was like, it's a bad thing that SF6 launched so good because nobody wants to change it.
Yeah, it's like they don't want to experiment as much with it, right? I think Street Fighter 5, that came out like doo-doo, so they could do whatever they wanted. And I think they went in the right direction. I guess the season 2 you brought up was funny. They removed the Invul DPs in season 1, and because of that, season 2 offense was so degenerate. But I think in the long run, once they toned down the V triggers and everything, I think it really worked out. Like,
yeah,
they had to rebalance and shuffle through a couple seasons, but it really kind of settled into a really happy medium between offense and neutral once they went through all those growing pains. But Street Fighter 6, it feels like they're playing it so safe so far, right?
It's a good game. Like I said, I was not gonna. It's a good game, but I want some experimentation, some kind of new flow to the game. I feel one thing I love about fighting games is always experiment. This is why, Marvel 3, Shill, number one Marvel 3, Shill. Marvel 3 has so much experimentation that kind of just lets you go on, experiment. Oh, does this work with that team? The team that I play, Dante Dorm Stray, that team shouldn't work on paper, but there's a lot of experimentation. Point Dante doesn't make it sense. So it's something with combining and just getting everything together that kind of, and then when it works, it just feels amazing. Kind of like Balatro, but that's a totally another discussion too.
Are you still hooked on it?
Yeah, I've been playing that game a bit too much. I actually,
it's a dopamine simulator, dude. It's dangerous.
Numbers go up. Numbers go up. Destiny, Diablo, all those games, numbers go up. It's just something for me.
So all those other games tap into that same mindset because I've avoided like all video games until
Yes.
Balatro. Okay, that's why I got to stay away from them. They're too dangerous. Like I feel like I dodged a bullet growing up because I never like did WoW, and I played
Mhm.
RuneScape for like 3 days, and I didn't get to like full on addiction phase. So and then I saw what it did to my friends, and I'm like, huh, I feel like I dodged a bullet here. But Balatro, it almost got me. I only played it over like Thanksgiving weekend, really, and then I got busy, so I was able to like break away from it. But if I had more free time, oh my god, I'd still be going for runs.
There is literally something like every game that I played, because like I played WoW, Diablo, Destiny, uh, Warframe. It's ding, like the ding 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 ding, and then it just keeps getting higher and higher.
I know the sound effect. Oh, beautiful! When you finally land the combo.
Yeah, that's what fighting games actually need. When you get the optimal combo, when you hit the one frame link on Street Fighter 4, it's a dopamine rush.
What if they? That's always an interesting thought. Like I always thought there could be more ways to get creative with input buffers in modern fighting games because maybe we could have a extra combo counter for if you do a true just frame on every link. Like if you avoided the buffer on your link combos, maybe there could be an extra multiplier. That ding,
Well,
ding, 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 ding. Every hit you do, it multiplies your
yeah,
combo damage slightly, scales it a little bit in a positive direction.
that'll be kind of sick. It's actually kind of like in racing games, like you could play automatic or manual, but you always play on manual because you go faster on manual, but manual is harder to play than automatic. So they could do something like that. Like, oh, I don't want the input buffer, but I get 0.5% more damage times damage or something.
Right, and if you're going for the one frame link and doing it just frame, that means that you have a really high risk of doing your link too late and dropping it, right? Because as you get the input buffer lets you press things early, so if you're trying to press it on the very last frame, if you go a frame later, then you would drop it. So it has a risk reward, so someone's styling if they're actually hitting the true one frame links. Something to think about, developers. I don't know. I would I think it's fun to add little mini games within the game. That's something I talk about with older fighting game design. Is that like yeah, sometimes I do think it was really bad having every single combo not be like if your B&B is always like triple one frame jab links into a special move knockdown, the combo doesn't even look cool and it doesn't even feel cool to do. It's just way too hard for no reason. That's kind of bad design. But it gives you little mini games in between to be like, ooh, I lost, but did you see that sick combo? You know what I'm saying? Like, lets you have something to do in between.
That was the Marlin Pie special in Marvel. Man did a sick ass Doom combo, but
That's true.
Might have got Virgil X factored, but that Doom combo is what everyone will remember.
Right, that's true. All the highlights are Marlon Pie doing the crazy combos. I don't even think he won any of those tournaments. I think he made a whole career off that. He was like a good like top 8, top 4 finisher, but he got sponsored. He was doing his thing, just styling on people. It's kind of hard to pull that off these days. Kind of hard.
They gotta make what is it? You got modern. Modern will be easy. Classic will be what we're playing right now, and then you got old man Street Fighter. Kind of like that's your third option with all the one frame links.
Oh, you mean just a character or control mode where you just eliminate the buffer entirely?
Yeah.
That might be too much. I don't know. Because I think that would end up with everybody feeling obligated to use that mode. I think if you just incorporated it on top of the regular gameplay mode, and then people could accidentally get one frame links too, I think that would add some hype for everybody involved. But
no, because I know I would be playing the classic because I would be like, I don't want to drop my combo and lose. So you could have the extra damage. I'm gonna make sure I don't drop anything.
That's true. Actually, if that was added to Street Fighter 6, because the problem is the frame data is so tight now. Like everything's a one frame link objectively. Like for people listening who don't understand, like the input buffer, like the way they structure the frame data, it's like, I think previously Street Fighter was like Legos and connects, and now it's like Mega Blocks, like the way the frame data is structured. Like you're still building the same bridge, but you're having like these big chunks of frame data where they fit right next to each other. And actually, those are all one frame links. Like there's no, you're +4 so that your jab links right after. That would be the hardest combo ever in Street Fighter 4. Doing medium punch into a jab link. Like that would be so hard in this game. It's standard. So every basic B&B combo you did would be one frame. So I guess that would be pretty badass. But we're old men yelling at clouds right now.
Yeah, these new kids know a bit too much about these fighting games.
So, is there one change you like from the balance patch, though? Before we move on, is there one thing you like? I like the Rashid DP nerf, for example.
Oh yeah,
Rashid didn't get nerfed that much, really, but and people complain about his level 2. I think that was a creative nerf because they addressed one of the ways that Rashid sets up his level 2. Because now, previously, he would do ODDP, and then he could just get a free level 2 and get mix and throw pressure and kill you off that. Now, if he does level 2 after his DP, the tornado is just on top of you, and you can often get up and punish with it, your own super, for example. So he loses the ability to pressure with level 2 after. So I think that was a good way to nerf like one of his ways to get into his busted level 2. So that to me is like one of my favorite nerfs changes from the patch.
I think the best nerf, in my opinion, was the Ed one. The Ed mashing crouch light kick into 2-2 into the dream combo. I was like, this is such a good change because I'm tired of all these Ed players just mashing these moves with no hurt boxes.
Come on now. Come on now. Well, which one? They didn't. They could have just left it -4 on block. Like you think both the crouching light kick not comboing into itself and the -4 is justified. I feel like crouching light kick to crouching light kick, that is messed up because that messes up his drive rush check punishes. Like his ability to convert from a drive rush check is like completely butchered by that.
It was really good, and the button itself was just so strong that something had to give. I'm glad they didn't nerf the dream combo. The EX punches being -4 is that one's kind of a bit questionable. I don't know why they did that, but I think the light kick change is really justifiable.
I think because to me it seems like I think the OD blitz being -4 is totally the right way. See, that's my opinion, right? Obviously biased as an Ed player. But I feel like fishing random buffer crouch light kick to OD blitz and then getting the dream combo, yeah, that was stupid because it was safe on block. So I think making that -4 makes perfect sense because then you have to actually hit confirm into it and not just fish for it and win, right? To me, fair enough. But then messing up the combo conversions for crouching light kick, I'm like, dude, like that when they drive rush at you, that's what you check with and convert from. So to me, it's just like enabling more mindless drive rush, right? It's leaning more into this side of the meta that I personally don't love. But you brought up the dream combo nerfs. That is very creative. I do give them props for that. It was emergent gameplay, right? People figured out some kind of unique, non-intended application of Ed's level 2, found a way to optimize the shit out of it. I had a lot of fun labbing that, figuring all that out, figuring out all the routes. And then they adjusted only for the light blitz when the drive gauge gets depleted. So now if you get the dream combo or you get a level 2, you have to choose, do I want to go for drive gauge damage right away and do not a dream combo and sacrifice damage? Or do I go for the dream combo and they'll rebuild their drive gauge during the combo and then lose 1 bar at the end, so they're kind of like drive gauge neutral by the time it finishes, but you get the corner carrying damage. So I think that was a really smart nerf, and I'm glad they went that route instead of like trying to adjust some kind of recoil value and ruin the combo routing. So I think that was creative from Capcom.
I think it was a smart thing because it's also on the Ed player. The Ed player drops, you don't lose any drive meter either. So and like the drive situation was so bad after you got hit by the dream combo because Ed's building like 3 bars from doing the entire combo, and you're just like stuck on nothing because it's just dropping so slowly. Right. So like the drive economy was really bad at the end of it, but I think I don't like that they nerfed Ed because I do feel like Ed was probably the most unique top tier out of the top tiers in the game. But at the same time, he did need some nerfs. It's kind of like the Zato complaints because like Zato was busted, but he's like the unique top tier. But I don't know. It's a hard thing. It's a hard argument for fighting games, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree because even as an Ed player, he was definitely I think top 3 at that time minimum. Some people put him top 1. I still think he was below like an Akuma or Rashid in my opinion. But he was unique, right? Like he did play the game differently. But he was veering into that like non-interactive territory, which is what people don't enjoy, and that's where characters get too strong and maybe the wrong way. But even Zato, like you're saying Zato, he is unique, but I think Zato is even way more non-interactive than Ed. What do you think? You're better at Guilty Gear than I am.
all top tiers across most fighting games are usually uninteractable, but I think they're
Yeah.
trying to get away from that from in Street Fighter 6. Like Morgan, you don't interact. Happy Chaos, usually not interacting. It's just the way fighting games work. Dawson wasn't interacting with you in 5. Dawson was playing his own game.
Right.
But it's the nature of the genre, I feel like.
Do you think Ed hit that level? Because I mean, Flicker itself was a mini game where you're interacting, but it's so stacked for Ed in his favor, right? And so like there was like the whole meta of like parry drive rush versus DI versus just take it. So there was some small amount of interaction there, but it was just really heavily favored towards Ed. So I don't know if he veered that far into non-interactive territory.
There's it wasn't that far of non-interaction, but it's just the nature of Street Fighter 6. Like I'm interacting every time. If I get a perfect parry, I'm interacting with you. I'm in
Right.
it. Like it doesn't matter. So I think the system mechanics kind of always allow for interaction. Like no matter what, if I'm getting throw loop, technically I'm interacting. It's not like I'm not interacting, but it's a weird way to call that interaction. But it does work. It's not me not playing the game.
That's true. Throw loops, my favorite form of interactive gameplay. Yeah, do you think they'll ever address that? That was the big thing that everyone was looking out for. You know, every single patch, there's always the fake news circulating. Oh, I think they added 2 frames of recovery on this guy's throw, and then it turns out, no, never mind. Throw loop is unaffected.
I can't throw loop on pad. What was that? The tweet? Not a throw loop on pad or something.
I feel bad for that guy. It's like, sorry, yeah, it's hard to throw loop on pad.
So I think throw loops are bad for the game, but I do understand why they're in the game because like playing so much Street Fighter 5, it was a take the throw meta. It was never, it was crazy to tech like mid screen or anything, or like even in the corner. So I think having the take the throw meta didn't allow for people to do the sick shit. Like everyone wants to do the sick shit. Like, if I'm always taking a throw, I'm never going to hit a dream combo because I'm never going to get shimmied or I'm never going to do this or that. So, it's good because you can do the sick, Luke 70% combo because I teched the throw and I died instead of Luke being like, oh, I got thrown and then we're back in neutral and, Luke can't really open me up unless he does low forward drive rush again or you get a jump in. But then even jumping's risky because if I get anti-air, then I'm in a bad spot. So I think throw loops allow for people to do the sick stuff, but at the same time, throw loops are so lame to a point that you don't get to do the sick stuff because throw loops are so good.
Based on what you just said, it sounds like no matter what, we're just getting thrown.
Yeah, I mean, throws are strong. Those are always.
Yeah, I guess that's my counter argument right there. Is that I think even without throw loops, people still get shimmied, right? Because like no matter what, you still end up having to tech a throw or check their offensive pressure, or else you will always get thrown over and over.
Counter argument in Street Fighter 5, you didn't have to tech until you were about to die, and then if I teched at the end, you didn't even get to do the cool combo because your shimmy probably killed me.
Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying, that there wasn't as much explosive moments towards the end. But I don't know. I still think it worked out. I don't.
Oro V triggers wouldn't happen if you weren't scared you were gonna die, or if somebody did a really bad tech at the end or something.
But no, we didn't have parry in that game. I could Oro V trigger you whenever.
I guess with the cross-ups and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, there was actual mix. That's why it was sick. And be real, if I popped Oro 3 Stone and I went up and did instant chicken feet in your face over and over, like people tech there. People would tech, they'd get popped by instant air chicken feet and they would die, and it was sick, right? I guess the smarter players did just take back throw 5 times in a row and let it be that. But you would take a lot of throws. You would take a lot of damage. So I still think it struck a good balance there. But regardless, they're doubling down on the throw loops, right? Like one of the big changes from the patch was removing the instant, the jump cancel special moves. So like, Zangief doing jump cancel SPD to jump away from the throw, cancel it into SPD on the ground, and punish throws. So the only thing related to throws was they made them stronger in this patch. So I don't know if you thought that was a good change or not, or if you cared.
I just think somebody at Capcom don't like Zangief. I think that's the main issue. It's just Geef hate. Everyone, I think a lot of the players in Japan, Nemo specifically, they all hate Zangief over there. So they don't want Zangief to be good, but at the same time, I never realized how many people love Zangief. YouTube comment, Twitter videos, people love Geef, but I think the highest level of players, like the tournament player, you don't want to fly across the world to get coin flipped by Geef and then, take that 12-hour plane ride home just
Right.
thinking, man, I should have, jumped this command grab or something. So it's a weird balance, but I think it was a good nerf for Geef, so they just get throw looped as well.
Yeah, people love Geef, dude. I mean, I think it's easy to love Geef as a spectator. I mean, I enjoy watching
Yeah.
Zangief. No one likes fighting Zangief because you're guessing. like, it just doesn't feel good. So if you're a spectator, I don't know how popular he is spectator like in Japan in the East, but in the West, yeah, there's a whole cult
Yeah,
of Zangief. It went to next
love
level
Zangief.
during Street Fighter 6. It was crazy. But anyways, hopefully they keep up these minor balance patches. I'm hoping for a shakeup soon, something to really change the meta. Because I think I'm getting a little tired of the dry rush. I think it might be time to mix it up. But I did want to also talk about the final CPT event, Kings of the World, that took place in the UK, the final CPT qualifier for the offline circuit. You don't want to go to that one, Idom? You weren't feeling like flying out to the
uh,
UK?
Sir, I already qualified, and then after that, I was like, I'm staying home. I was good. I was actually planning on going, and then as soon as I qualified, I was like, yep, nope, don't have to go anymore. It looks like I dodged the bullet.
Yeah, I think a lot of people registered for this event early since there's no LCQ, which is something that I realized a lot of people who are like casually following the CPT this year don't realize. There's no LCQ. This was the LCQ, essentially the de facto LCQ. And so there was so many people who registered early and who ended up qualifying throughout the season, and then a lot of them didn't end up going and dropped out. But a lot of them still did go. This tournament had, I believe, 8 already qualified Capcom Cup players in the bracket, which is the most out of any of them. And we're in an auto qualifier system. So theoretically, we could have had a whole top 8
Oh yeah, you're right.
all qualified. I was kind of hoping for something funny like that to happen. I think in top 8, only Mena RD and who else was in top 8 that was qualified?
I think it was Mena and kills you. Yeah.
Right. So if Kills You, stayed in winners and Mena RD made it to grand finals, that means that we would have to. It would have been what, third place who qualified?
Third place hype match. The most exciting losers semis. Oh, actually no, because Mena would have been in losers. So the most exciting. Actually no.
I guess
the
it wouldn't have
qualifier
changed.
match.
It wouldn't have changed. It would have been losers finals again, right?
No, because the guy who got into winners finals would have auto qualified and Mena just won.
But you
straight
wouldn't
through.
know that yet. I guess because it would be. So, winners finals would play first, and then it would be losers round 3, losers semis would be like a really important match, and then you would figure out who would qualify that way. So the loser semis match would determine who qualifies. So third or fourth place.
Mena would have been in losers semis, so the guy in winners finals or losers finals would have been cheering on Mena, actually, wanting Mena to win the loser semis match. So that would have been unfair way to kind of look at it, like somebody else is cheering on Mena to beat somebody.
Right. Either way, I think it shows that like the auto qualifier system, it's weird, and then it gets even weirder as the season goes on. Like it literally is encouraging people to stay home. Like you even mentioned, right? You qualified, you were gonna go, now you qualified. Why would you go, right? And it's always a question that comes up, like why do they even allow qualified players? And I almost kind of agree because it isn't an issue by luck, right? Because this tournament theoretically literally could have had 8 people in top 8 who are all qualified, and then they'd have to do like, you remember the Esports World Cup qualifier in Dallas where they had to do a mini tournament to determine from the 4 people who tied for 9th place. They had to play a mini tournament to figure out who got the top 8 qualifying spot because Mena had already qualified and was in there, which was super weird. They had a mini tournament after. So it shows kind of the gaps in the system. But did you think anything about the actual qualification, Armper's run?
Emperor had a good run. I mean, I was making this joke a lot because I was keeping up with a lot of the CPTs actually, thanks to Incross because Incross posts a lot of
Hell
the
yeah.
data for it. But I was realizing something. I was like, man, the first seed's never winning any of these online tournaments, and Emperor was the first seed in his regional final
Yeah.
during the World Warrior. So Emperor lost there, and I was like, oh well, first seed never wins. This is the way the game works. But going into it, I'm not surprised Emperor won because like Emperor is obviously really strong. I think like according to the World War, he's the best player in South Korea. So going in, I when I watched your episode with Mena on the Trash Talk, you, I I'm not calling the game random. I think there is a level of you understand the game, and then when you see somebody win, you're like, yeah, I get it. I understand why they won, kind of thing.
Yeah, everyone in this top 8 I could expect to go far, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's variance, and Street Fighter in general and fighting games in general are they have varying degrees of variance, but they're games with a decent amount of variance compared to other genres. Like if you compare to other competitive games, StarCraft, for example, right? Like there's just not that much level of variance compared to a game like Street Fighter. And we also just play really short sets in a high variance game. It's like playing 3 hands of poker to determine who wins, right? Like it just doesn't make sense. If you play a round of poker, that could last hours. It's not something that you resolve right away. So I really just think it's our format doesn't keep up with the nature of the game. But all the players who go far are very good, right? And variance can just be on your day as a strong player to get you over the edge.
Really, I feel like during I always bring this up during the Dragon Ball era, the Goichi Sonic Fox that was guaranteed. I knew it was going to be grand finals every time. So I do agree with there are some variants and like Street Fighter is much more volatile, but like at the same time we've seen players play games and is like, hey, this is probably going to be grands right here. I think SF6 has got to be the hardest game to call, what's going to be grand finals all the time.
For sure. And that's both because of increased variance and also the competition, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But for Dragon Ball, that's a very low variance game, especially season 1, right? Like eventually throws became reactable. Like all the mix became reactable, right? So that's the other extreme of it, is that it was hard to have that skill and that awareness, but it was a skill you could acquire. You could practice for that, and then you could reach the level where suddenly you teched every throw and you blocked nearly every mix. Like, you know, we saw the Goichi Leffen match where Leffen was trying so hard for like a minute straight to crack open Goichi's defense, like running at him, stopping, random jump, Dragon Rush, whatever it's called, the Super Dash. Like, he tried so many angles of attack, and it was all blocked. And not saying that everyone would have that level of defense, but it was shown to be within that limits because the throws are reactable. And for people who don't like follow the game design that closely, like the reason why all of this opens us up in Street Fighter is because the throw is not reactable, right? That's the key difference. It's like it's literally a guess if they're going to do throw or not, which then suddenly it leads to everybody getting opened up 24/7 from every other approach in the game.
Yeah, it opens up Pandora's box, and like I think is the stuff isn't reactable, less OSs because the way the game works, you can't really OS, you know. In Marvel, if I get shimmied, you know, Dormammu's doing a move. I'm not whiffing. Dormammu's not whiffing throw in front of somebody's face. I'm doing another move, and then like, oh well, I get a combo by accident because why not? Or like, yeah, this kind of stuff like that.
That was so funny when I first started playing Marvel, and I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, the throws just happen when you're close enough, and when you're further away, you get a big button. So, like, if you're jumping around with Hulk, like, I might just randomly throw you out of the air or get the world's largest fist raining down upon your head. So, like, I can't lose. You know, it's like, I just jump and press heavy, and if you jump at me, I throw you and I kill you, and if not, I punch you and I kill you. Yeah, just a different design.
A win-win.
Right, yeah, very different design. But Marvel has unreactable mix in other ways, right? Like they're not designed to run the throw. Street Fighter's designed to run the throw, and that leads to where we are today. But yeah, Arbor played great, and you mentioned he was seed 1. I mean, he lost to NL. Like, I want to
Yeah,
point that out.
it's not surprising. That wasn't like, I don't think that's a surprising loss, but
Right.
it was something I was keeping up. I think like of I think it was like 40 something World Wars, or it's some like 30 or something. I think the first seed won like 3 or 4 times, to be honest.
Wow. That's why I'm glad they added the auto qualifiers, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember when they first started doing this, Endingwalker in UK in Street Fighter V, he won like every World Warrior, but then he still had to play the regional finals. And I was like, dude, if he doesn't win the regional finals, I'm going to be pissed. It would just be anticlimactic for everybody involved that the guy who dominated the region just drops one tournament and then it's over.
It was funny. I was watching that one live, and I still remember Shax was supposed to beat him. Shax dropped the combo, and it was just Ending Walker kind of rode the momentum. But Shax was supposed to beat him that tournament.
Yeah, Shax had a good run. He showed up again this tournament. He had a lot of good games. His set against John Takeuchi was hilarious. How like I'm sure you saw the clip on Twitter with Big Bird talking about Rashid and all that, and I just remembered seeing the John Takeuchi Shax round where John Takeuchi has level 2 at the start of the final round of game 1, pops level 2, puts him in burnout, stuns him right away, guaranteed stun, does another combo, builds a second level 2, gets a guaranteed stun again, and wins. And it's like 70 seconds straight of Shax not playing the game because Rashid had level 2. But somehow he survived that and cracked top 8. But the big talk of this tournament, though, wasn't even the tournament. It was just everyone complaining about the setups.
Yeah, that's almost every tournament now. We haven't had a tournament where people not complained about setups in a while. I feel like almost every offline event that happened this year, as people were complaining about the setup, except for one, because I went to so many. Well, I went to 4 of the CPT qualifiers this year, and the one setup that I will not complain, Cream City actually had some good setups. I think Cream City had the best offline setups of all the CPTs I went to.
Yeah, I wish I could complain because I got washed there, but I had no problem. I have no excuses. Yeah, I think the big problem here is, and just to contrast first with like the Street Fighter V era, the thing is we understood that it was ass, right? Or once COVID happened, everyone was forced to switch to PC because PS4 was a tournament standard, so we all played on PS4 originally. Then when everything went online, it's like, well, the actual issues with the Street Fighter V netcode were often caused by the poor performance of the PlayStation 4 itself. So we all switched to PC, and then that actually improved, I think, every competitive player's online experience drastically, right? Suddenly Street Fighter V Online was pretty good. It was like, oh, maybe PS4 is kind of a dog shit console. Who would have thought? And so we went to offline tournaments in that era. It was understood it was going to be significantly worse than PC Street Fighter 5. But then with Street Fighter 6, I think also not only is the PS5 in optimal conditions just slightly worse than a pretty standard PC setup, because obviously it keeps scaling with the refresh rate of your setup, right? So for people who don't know, yes, even though fighting games are locked to 60 FPS, if you increase the refresh rate of your monitor and have that properly configured, it can still lower the input delay and increase the rate at which the frames are delivered to you, so that you don't miss the cycle between each frame that the console or the game is delivering, and it can be delivered to you in a lower response fashion. The difference between a regular PC setup and PS5 Street Fighter 6 is not that different in optimal conditions. But now there's like, you have to have HDMI 2.1 to get the proper VRR configuration for the console, and also you have to have proper monitors. So what we found is, I don't think it's just PS5, because people boil this down to PS5 versus PC. I think it's, we don't have a standardized monitor to use, we don't have standardized cables, and we don't have standardized settings on the console. So you can have a huge variance between PS5s, ignoring them overheating, right?
Yeah.
I just think literally the settings are incorrect at a lot of these tournaments that we go to. And so people are like messing with the menus and stuff. Like, it's gone are the days where it was an Xbox and you plugged it in and it worked, right? Like, now people are like opening up the settings. Like, is VRR set? Like, are the settings correct? Is low input delay turned on, right? And I think we're just having a lot of tournaments where these settings aren't set, and then they just feel like shit. And players are getting caught off guard by that.
Yeah, I think kind of what you said, like nobody knows, well, people know the settings, but no one's testing it, no one's like going through it before the tournaments, and it's just like, hey, I'm gonna sit down, let me plug my controller into the PS5 and then let's see where it goes from there. I remember I played Rain Pro. It was Rain Pro at Evo, and I lost to Rain Pro, and I remember we after we played the first match, we had to go back to like the settings because like it felt terrible. Like it felt very sluggish. My buttons weren't coming out. My parries weren't coming out. And like looking at the set, I was like, oh, reduction was off for some reason. I'm like, hey, like what is this? And then it's just like, hey, you gotta play the next match because that match is not we can't not count that match for not happening. So it does kind of suck. I don't know what is going on. Like I think it's just, I don't want to say it's no one's fault, but it is kind of a problem because I feel like we're going to not lose offline tournament because people don't care that much, but people are going to see this and then not want to go to offline tournaments, and I think everyone should go to offline tournaments because they're also good. Like bad player experience behind, like, oh, I got knocked out because laggy monitor. Offline tournaments are still very fun, and like it's very fun to go to and hang out with your friends and all that stuff. So all that stuff is good.
Right. Yeah, I think the problem here is that we don't have a good standardization of what these CPT tournament setups should be like, and we don't have validation that the setups match. And I think that's where these complaints really stem from, and also the fact that nobody can know for sure what's going on, right? Because as a competitor, like you can't just trust the word of someone playing on a setup and say it feels laggy. Like I know and I know how that feels, and you can 100% just feel input delay. But the problem is also your feelings are impacted by your adrenaline, your mood, how much sleep you had, right? Like we are imperfect measuring devices. And so we all are prone to error. And there's no objective way to say, hey, this setup is not meeting quality standards, because PS5 and the bad settings on a bad monitor is terrible, and it's not the game that you practice for. And it impacts the meta of how the game operates. And it just makes results more random and not the test of what you studied for, right? You're suddenly being tested on something else that wasn't what you prepared for, especially considering that 99% of the tour is online, right? So you need to have standardization so that we can all prepare for the same environments. And so when you go to these tournaments, I've heard also that some of these tournaments do have their own setup configuration per tournament, and they purposely do lower refresh rate, non-VRR, input delay off for standardization with what they use for the stream setup, right? Like there's, and they tell you, like I've heard players were complaining at Evo that they wanted to turn, like what you said, turn on input delay reduction and maybe turn on VRR, and they were told not to by the bracket runners because you're not supposed to touch the setups, right? Which I think is fair. Like I don't necessarily want players randomly taking it into their own hands to change the setup settings, but at the same time, whose job is that? And how do we trust as players that you configured these setups correctly, right? There's a lack of standardization and trust here. And that leads to, people always like to rag on a Punk on Twitter because he's very vocal about this pretty often. They go, oh, he's just salty that he lost. And it's like, in this case, he actually tweeted about this before he lost. Before he lost in this tournament, he started already tweeting that the setups were bad. Like after he won sets on stream, he made tweets. And then, he expanded on it after he was eliminated. And other people were complaining as well, right? And then, we saw Ending Walker, who's normally very reserved in terms of these type of complaints, right? He expressed his opinion, saying like, look, I all respect to the competitors who beat me. They played great, but I strongly feel that, when I come to these tournaments, you cannot predict the environment you're playing on. It's impacting my gameplay, and it's not what we practice for. And I agree with that, right? So I think we, as a community, need to have better technical know-how to know what the optimal PS5 settings are, understand the monitors, and maybe, like, ideally in a future, have someone that can just quickly test and stamp the setup. Like, yep, this is an approved CPT setup. This is meeting the standard input delay requirements. We did a quick field test, whatever. We checked the settings. Like, there needs to be some gold standard we have, because otherwise people are just going to complain forever and no one's going to know the truth, right? It invites this conspiracy type of mindset. like, oh, my jab felt 1 frame off when I pressed the button. It must be the setup. It can't be me. Like your
I
mind starts going crazy. So
didn't drop this combo.
yeah, so I think we got to figure that out. Like I need to figure out the optimal PS5 setups because I can't remember offhand exactly every setting because you can't turn on VRR if you don't have the proper HDMI version either. And so some monitors support that and some don't, and some cables support that, some don't. So there's a lot of configuration settings there.
I believe I think somebody said they were playing on like Samsung monitors at the Kings of the World or something, but like most of the tournaments we go to in the States is, we're playing on Sony InZone monitors. And
Right.
like I said, when I played at Cream City, it felt fine. It felt great. I don't know what they did. I don't know what the TOs or the people running the event at Cream City did, and I don't know all the stuff like behind the scenes, but we played at the same monitors on East Coast Throwdown, and I got second at that event, but at the same time, it didn't feel good. Like it definitely felt like some moves weren't coming out, or this was missing or that was missing. So it's a weird thing. You don't want to like bring it. Well, actually, I did bring it up while I was on stage. I think after the first match with what was it, Daigo? It was Daigo or Big Bird or Boost. It was one of them. But during the top 8, I was like, hey, the monitor, feels kind of bad. So they swapped out the monitor. I know they got rid of the PlayStation. They got a whole new monitor. But even after, it still didn't feel that great. So I don't know what they could actually do unless, the bad wiring or, maybe the VR wasn't on or something
Right.
like that. But it's hard. I know a lower story. Cien, I still remember we were talking at a tournament and he told me the bad monitor was always there. Even during the Street Fighter 4 times, he would go to tournaments, fly across the world, and he would sit down and play on like 360 setups, and the bad monitor was always there because he would be like, I was dropping like Gen combos or something like that, and because of the monitor's fault, because this is what he practiced on. So he was like, it doesn't matter Street Fighter 4 or 5, because this is around when 5 was out. Every monitor is laggy, and that's what he just told me. I just think it's funny.
Yeah, I mean, Street Fighter 5 just had it built into the console. We had bigger problems at hand there. I think the difference now is that there's more points of failure because before there wasn't console settings, right? So before it was just the monitor. And also if you're on stream, the stream setup, because one thing we haven't mentioned is that with production, if they're doing, depending on how they run their splitters and how they're redirecting the feed to the players, is it one monitor side by side? Is it head to head with two separate monitors? Like there could be other points of failure that are introducing input delay to the setup, right? So it's complicated. It's not easy. And now on top of that, it's also not just the monitor for like an off-stream setup. It's the console settings and it's the cables you use, right? Like there's more factors at play now that actually influence this. And then the difference between like a bad setup and like what people play on home on PC is multiple frames of input delay, which completely changes the meta for how you play the game, right? It makes DI suddenly so much stronger. It makes jumping stronger. It makes it so that you might miss time your combos. Like it impacts the gameplay experience heavily. So I think we just need to arm ourselves with education, right? That's something that I want to look into more, is like understanding input delay and like the optimal configurations for a console setup. Because people like to boil this down to PC versus PS5. I don't think it's that simple. I would prefer PC in the long run, but I think we could do better with our PS5 setups now and figure that out.
I think like because I would run tournaments in New York during like the Street Fighter 5 times, and people would try to do as a whole PC versus PS4 argument because PS4 Street Fighter 5 was so bad.
Right.
So during that time, there's so many like minor things, like even plugging into PC, people's hitbox is not working, or somebody wants to play on a keyboard or something. So all that stuff kind of hurts, and there's a lot of like minor technical issues as well. But even at the same time, I don't see why. Well, it's different for like fighting game events, but like at DreamHacks that I go to, all the other competitors, like the Overwatch players, the StarCraft players, the Counter-Strike players, they're all on PC. I mean, if we gotta play at like 4 a.m. to get good Street Fighter matches, I'll take their PCs after they're done at the same time and just play play after them. I'd much rather have to play on PC, but like I said, I understand the logistics as like someone trying to run tournaments in New York. Like that's just a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah, there's issues. I mean, like I said, I think people overblow the whole difficulty of getting PC going, especially depending on who's running the tournament. Like official CPT tournaments, I think they can maybe afford to make it happen a little bit more. You know, you don't have to do it at your local, but at least with our PS5 setups, we need to figure out how to optimize this and approve it so that we reduce the amount of complaints, because we can go, hey, this is certified. We check these settings. These are exactly the settings that we use. This is the exact model of monitor. This is the exact cable standard we use. And this is the exact production setup we use, right? Until we can like standardize this stuff, there will always be complaints, justified or not. And that will always lead to a negative look at the event when it should be an opportunity to just celebrate the game, the players, and, you know, someone qualifying for Capcom Cup, right? So definitely something we got to work towards.
They just got to cut the million and get some PC setups. Cut the million is right there.
I'm sure they're going to cut the million. I don't know about us getting PC setups, but yeah, I think half of that will definitely happen very soon. I'm almost certain of that. Anyways, other hot topics. So pop-offs are all the rage right now. All the rage, considering Street Fighter League, they finally aired the final episode, I believe, before the playoffs begin for Street Fighter League US. And as part of that, Team Bandits was up on the chopping block where they had to get the job done against I always forget their name. Is it Versus Vortex?
Is it versus it was in Shopify because it was Deuce team, right?
Well, they were actually, Mena RD was fighting against NL during that match.
Yeah, the Versus Vortex,
So they had to beat Versus Vortex in order to qualify into the top 4 over
Shopify.
Shopify. And then it became a whole Twitter discourse thing when Mena RD got the job done, popped off a little bit. It was a very clutch game. He deserved to pop off 100%. It was hype. And then he took the jersey and threw it into the crowd, aimed at the Shopify players, kind of square at like a safe knuckle do, and Dual Kevin kind of juked out of the way right there. And that became a whole big discussion about what is a pop-off? You know, where's the line to be drawn?
I wouldn't know what a pop-off is. I don't pop off much myself. But, I think pop-offs are good for the community. It shows passion. It shows like, I'm in this. This is what I do. This is me. I'm hype I won. You get excited. Show off a bit. But
there's a line, right?
There's a line. There's some pop-off. As long as it's not ill-mannered. I don't think it was ill-mannered or... I mean, I don't know where Meta was throwing that shirt at, but I don't think it was that disrespectful. If you just threw the shirt on the ground, I think it would have been fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know the context. I don't know what was said. I don't I can't hear any of that stuff. I don't know what led into all that. But if you just get up, take off your shirt, throw it. We've seen the Punko moments as well. So I think that's fine.
Do had a video recounting this because he wasn't a fan of that interaction, and so he had a very good video sharing his reasoning behind that, because I think the question here is, what does it mean to keep it in game versus making things physical? That's like common recurring theme in these discussions, and I would 100% agree with you. If Mena RD popped off, threw his jersey on the ground, rolled on the ground, I don't care, did a couple cartwheels, a backflip, whatever. I think any of that would have been fine because that's his personal celebration for his success, right? And then, but taking the shirt and then throwing it at players, yes, that wouldn't cause any bodily harm, but does that count as getting physical? Like, that was a discussion point. Like, Safe commented that he felt like that was kind of crossing a line. Like, hey, like, you can celebrate, but that was getting physical. And then, of course, some people on Twitter are like, wow, it's so soft. You think that's getting physical? But that's a physical object coming into contact, being thrown from one player to another. Does that count as keeping it in game? That seems, if a shirt flies at you, a jersey flies at you in real life, I feel like that's not in game. I don't know. What do you think?
Is not. It's it's bad because it is disrespectful to like have a jersey thrown at you. I don't think it's disrespectful. It's not harmful. Let's not get that. If somebody throws a shirt at you, you're not gonna get hurt. Like no one's getting hurt from that. But it's disrespectful, and I do think it crosses the line of we're not respecting each other as players anymore, and everyone's going against each other, because that's what everyone on Twitter like thinks, like, oh, we all hate each other. But at the same time, we're all doing this together. We're all trying to come up together. We're all doing this. We all have a common goal. We're all so small in trying to get this one thing to be so big, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of weird because I think from audience members who are very far removed from this, a lot of them want blood.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
literally.
That's what I'm saying.
But they want players. They want this to be like a big dramatic show, and they want players to tear each other down and like attack each other. And I don't think that actually makes sense in the long run or the short term for the actual players involved, because it's a very small world. You're going to see these people over and over again. And also all of you, like every player combined is like in a precarious position. We're not in an established league. There's no guarantee that any of these infrastructure events exist next year, right? Like every year it's a blessing that the Capcom Pro Tour or Street Fighter League exists, right? That there's opportunities to make money playing video games, and then that encourages these players to get sponsored and have more consistent opportunities to earn income from this. So like everyone is in a very precarious position to begin with. So it almost makes more sense from like an economic standpoint for players to be on each other's side and try to support each other, because there's more strength in numbers to help improve the conditions and improve their leverage to get opportunities in this space, right? So the view of like this being like a WWE and players attacking each other and all that, it doesn't make sense. But that's why people like to say, oh, shit talk and pop-offs are all good if you keep it in game. But then when I think about that, I always wonder, what is that line? What does that even mean? In game, if you take that literally, that means literally the buttons you press in the game. That means any words you say outside of the game, don't count. So I know that's not what they mean. Usually they're extending it to like, if you're going to trash talk about somebody's skill in the game, right? Like I am better than you at the game. You suck at the game. I will beat your ass in the game. Like there's all these qualifications that you add to it. But then how is as a pop-off in the game? If you jump around and flail your arms, is that in the game, right? So I don't know. Do you have a line for that, like, that you ever thought about?
I guess the pop-off in game would be like, with a teabag or like the spins with Manon. But it's a weird line to kind of draw too, because I don't agree with like, I saw the Capcom fighters post like the video of like, Mena popping off throwing a shirt, which I don't think that's good. Kind of what Safe was saying, because they're kind of promoting that kind of behavior, which I don't think is good for the scene. If this was like a WWE, because I'm glad you brought it up. If this is like a WWE and we all like inside and we all know what's going to happen, then it's fine. Like if dude was like, haha, you're gonna throw the jersey at me, Mena, and then it's gonna get a sick reaction, right? Then that's all good fun. But if it's not like that, and like, because it's not, then I think it looks bad. It encourages, people to, go to events. Say, Johnny Donuts is on stream and he beats Johnny Donuts number 2, and he throws a shirt at him, and then there's a fight on the stream setup, and then everyone starts beating. Then it's like, oh well, thanks. I guess that happens, right. And then we start having events, and then Capcom's like, oh, look at these guys fighting each other on stream at a CPT event.
Johnny Donuts versus Timmy Two Sweeps. They throw it out on the stage, but there was a streak of players throwing shit off stages. Did you remember at CEO? Was it a Tekken player or Mortal Kombat player? He threw the chair and smashed the light.
Yeah, the guy who threw the chair. Yeah, he hit the light. Well, I think in Smash they throw crabs at each other or something. Somebody throw crabs
exactly. Yes, yeah. There is a history of inanimate objects being thrown at people, and previously animate objects that were cooked and then thrown at people. Right, like this has existed, and so I think that's also where like the sensitivity lies to it, because it's like, hey, like this could quickly get out of hand if people try to like copy this kind of behavior. But it also got me thinking like. The nature of this pop-off, if this was CEO, right? You remember like Mena won CEO 2023, right? If he popped off and he took his jersey off and threw it up into the crowd, I feel like that would be kind of hype.
Yeah, that would be great.
You know what I mean? Because like that's not, to me, that's throwing like memorabilia out into the open for someone to catch. It doesn't come across the same, and it's not. Also, you shouldn't throw it at someone's face. You know, like I guess there's also like a physical intent with the throw itself that colors if it's crossing a line or not, right?
That's in the NBA. So like when they like fouls, it's like intent. Did I mean to punch you? You know, was there like velocity on the punch? How was the punch, made? Like if you throw your jersey into the crowd, it's going up. So, the velocity is going down and then it's falling down into the crowd. So it's not ill intent. But if you beam your shirt at like somebody,
you ball it up first, like you whip it around to get it nice and tight, and then
yeah. Then like, oh well, that's you're suspended from Street Fighter League. I don't know.
Yeah. It's weird to start like having to police behavior, right? Like it's a strange thing, but I guess that's what happens in any kind of organized league. Like there's rules around this kind of stuff. And to give credit to Mena, like I like to give grace in these situations. I respect Mena heavily. I don't think he should have done the shirt throw like that. And I'm not sure if he has any thoughts on that himself. I don't want to speak for him. I could imagine maybe he could understand that maybe that was a little bit too far and he should have kept the pop-up to himself. I don't want to speak for him. Dude did speak on this, though. He did have a YouTube video where he discussed why he felt that was inappropriate. And they said that he actually went up directly and called them out directly after the match and said, hey, that's not cool. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, we're friendly like this, and that felt like extremely disrespectful, and you're physically throwing a shirt at us. Like, it's okay for you to celebrate winning the set to qualify over that. That's competition. That's in game. You celebrate yourself, you pop off. We did it. Yes, let's go. That's one thing. But then to take it and then, throw the shirt at the other team, it's like, it's kind of maybe crossing a line there. But there's another aspect to that I think about, and even when people talk about keep it in game, the game is more than a game, right? The game is, these are careers for these people. These are people's lives. So even that line, it's not that cut and dry because, Dew has a wife, 2 kids, I think 2 mortgages. You know what I mean? Like this career is his livelihood. So in some ways, there's an element of like financial insecurity. Not saying that Dew is not well off or anything. I don't want to insinuate that, but I'm saying the scene as a whole, on average, if you're depending on only income from fighting games, I don't think anyone in that position is in a secure financial situation. And therefore, you might be literally taking opportunities away from them to support themselves, right? Like that could exist. I'm not trying to insinuate that's Dew's position at all. But that literally could exist. Like this, like beating somebody in a tournament like this could be the difference between them having a career or not.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's more sensitive than just being in game. I don't know if you think the same way.
It's always been like that. That's always just kind of how, fighting games have been. I feel, I've beaten people. I mean, like I said, I don't know their financial situations, but even at the same time, somebody could be like, man, I needed this money or I really needed to win this bracket. I'm putting all my eggs in this basket going to this tournament trying to win this. I heard stories back in the days of old, the 2000s about, the old Marvel 2 players or the old Third Strike players, doing the same thing. So it's weird. I definitely think I don't think in that situation it has anything to do like money or like, financial instability. It really is just disrespect,
right.
No one's trying to come off as like we hate each other. Like no one in, I don't know about you. I don't hate anyone in the FGC, but we're all just, nerds hitting buttons. So I think we all got to be nerds hitting buttons together instead of like trying to divide or, like make cliques or,
like not trying to make this into this weird WWE persona thing driven by division, right?
I think it's better for the FGC if it was more WWE-esque, but it's not. You can't do that without everyone kind of agreeing to that.
I think that's the miss with that. People talk about that, and I think they miss the component where the WWE is not real.
Oh,
and everyone is a paid actor, making a
Yeah.
full-time salary. You know, I mean, obviously, if you go lower down the tiers of wrestling, people are really scraping by for money, but that's their job, is
Yeah.
to engage in that way, and then the results are also scripted. So I just never think that the drama of actual competition will ever match like WWE, because it's not real, right?
Yeah,
And
it's not. It's
there's a
not.
natural drama that occurs with real competition, and I think that it doesn't always hit those crazy WWE storyline moments, but when it does, it's bigger, it's deeper, because it's real, right? And that's why we love
Yeah.
sports. That's why humans love competition. So I don't know. I don't think people have to do the WWE stuff, but
I think
it
I
can be
think
fun sometimes.
it's more engage. I feel like it's super engaging for the story. And by the way, somebody in your YouTube comments definitely going to be like, wrestling's real to me, damn it, or so.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, there's been times where like you put on a show, even me as a content creator, just doing random sets. Like I've done like random first to tens, right? And during that, there would be banter, and there would be, we're hamming it up a little bit and trying to talk a little bit of smack in a friendly manner. But it's just, we both know it's a show, right? I think there's a big
yeah,
difference. When people go to tournaments, it's for real, dude. Like,
that's what I'm
it's
saying.
for real.
That's what people I think don't get. Like the stream monsters don't get, not the what you call it, not the players there.
Yeah, some people treat it as characters in a show from a distance, which is fine. But I guess you can't expect. You also have to bring a sense of reality to the situation. These are normal people who are often not making any money, and the ones who are not making that much, like it's the expectations are a little outrageous sometimes for people being characters. But sometimes you do need some supplemental excitement beyond just the game itself. So I get that desire. And the other pop-offs we had, I do want to approach this one with a little bit of grace. We saw Noah get a little bit of flack for his pop-offs on Twitter post Street Fighter League as well. And the context being, he posted the Michael Jordan GIF of him with the baseball bat post championship, getting ready to celebrate going into the playoffs with his team, and then Chris CCH said. He called him out saying, weren't you a bench warmer? You should post a Bronny GIF instead, which I thought was kind of funny. I'm not going to lie. To me, that's in game.
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. That was funny. It was funny.
To me, that's trash talk in game. I thought, to me, like, yeah, why you posting Michael Jordan, you should post a Bronny GIF, because Noah, I think he's a great player, and I think he gets way too much shit for his play style. But he's qualified for Capcom Cup, won a CPT Premier. You can split hairs about strength of the competitive field, who attended or not, whatever. He got the job done. Highest placing American at Esports World Cup. He goes into burnout every 5 seconds. Sure, so be it. He's still beating your favorite player in a lot of sets, right? Like, he's objectively a strong player. But Street Fighter League US, he played like 3 times and lost each time. So he got into the playoffs. And I think he objectively did not really contribute that much to this run. So yeah, once Chris CCH called him out for that, he started to respond in kind, and got in a lot of flack for that. He went after Chris CCH being dropped by TSM for the Street Fighter V season, and made fun of him for being upset about that, or being upset from a tournament loss. So
that's kind of the stuff that I think is I think that's kind of harmful. Like, I don't know that, like, the TSM situation for Chris kind of just like sucked. So there was nothing you could have really done about that. I don't mind, like, if you're the Street Fighter League, as former bench warmer myself, because I was on the bench in the first season of Street Fighter League. Yeah, seasons like that happen, but like stuff like that makes you stronger. You'll come back. You have a fire under your ass. You're gonna want to, next time you play Chris, you're gonna go into burnout harder and then kick his ass or something. So I think that gives you like momentum or motivation, to keep getting better. And that's kind of the friendly shit talk. Like I said, the TSM thing, it hits kind of like close to home, I feel like, or is getting kind of personal. I feel like it's not talking about like stats or play style or whatever. It's, hey, haha, you suck. You got dropped from your esports team because you're bad.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Right. And I think what's missing there too is like he wasn't even bad. Like when I looked back at the numbers, I was like, TSM had a weird stint with the FGC, and they sponsored Chris very short term. He was sponsored for less than a year. I guess it was like 5 months, 6 months,
Mhm.
looking like a 6 month contract, it looked like. And so the thing is, he had this 6 month contract, and I think he was on Street Fighter League US during that time, and he did good there. I think was that when he was on
I
the
think
CLG team. I think that was when he was on CLG, and they almost
he's
won.
Yeah, they got second, I think, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that was also when he got ninth at Evo
He got
or
ninth at
for Street.
Evo, and I think that might have been what he was highlighting the picture of Chris with his head down in the setup, which, of course, he was one pixel away from getting top 8 at Evo to Just a Kid. Literally last hit, last round, last poke, and then he got poked by Jury Stan MK. But on top of that, he qualified for Capcom Cup. It's
Yeah,
like
like
during that time when TSM dropped him, he went to Capcom Cup. Like he got the job
yeah.
done. So I feel like the miss there, and that's something I want to talk to Noah about. It's like I think that's a misrepresentation of how sponsorships work in the FGC, because I think even if Chris CCH say he won Evo that year, I think he still might have been dropped. I don't
Yeah,
think
still been going.
yeah. We're in such a precarious position in terms of securing real sponsorships, and all of this is all fake money to begin with from these orgs. You know, they're sponsored by, they're all like venture capitalist speculation and then cryptocurrency speculation, right? TSM was with FTX, which turned out to be a giant fucking scam, right? Like all this was fake money to begin with, and then they make these gambles on FGC players because they're a cheap gamble. They may pay off, may not. They don't really pay attention to these players half the time, right? They just go, oh, okay, well, we'll play for this one guy to go to some tournaments, and maybe this will be a gamble that pays off with all of our fake money, because no fighting game player is giving a return to their sponsors on the money they spend. Not a single one. Like that doesn't exist. Like we do not generate income for these teams. So I feel like that's almost like a class consciousness that has to be developed. Like, hey, you don't go after the sponsor like that, because it can happen to you. No matter how strong you are, you can get dropped for reasons outside of your control, right? And I think that
Yeah,
is a point that has to be understood by the community. I don't know if you agree on that.
I think it's less and less about. I don't want to say it's not about being good, because like I've had so many people tell me, like when I first got sponsored, I had so many people tell me like, yo, it's not about the results. It's not about the results. It's about, getting your name out there, being a presence, being like uh good YouTube, good, publicity, having good social media presence, all that good stuff. Being a well-liked person in the community. That being said, the best way to do that would be good at the game. If you're winning
Right.
tournaments, if you're getting high placements at tournaments, more people know you, more people are already tuning in your stream, all that kind of good stuff. So I do think sponsorships and like all that stuff is, left out of left field. Like you could just get dropped immediately. But at the same time, I do think you can, probably not going to make the money, but you can bring some sort of, good investment, a good presence to the sponsorships, even if like Chris getting ninth at Evo that year, I think was good for TSM. It's, and he still has that photo of him, with his head in his hand. But at the same time, that that helps Chris more than TSM. If that makes sense, because that's still an iconic moment in Chris's career. Because I know he gotten stronger because of him getting ninth at Evo, because it lit a fire under his ass or something.
Right. But I agree with what you're saying in terms of like securing your own position with a sponsorship. The best way to do that is to have strong results, right? Like if you are getting first place in every tournament, you are undeniable, and you're going to be in good graces with the community, and you're going to get a lot of attention, right? So you're going to attract a sponsorship, and that's the best you can do while you're sponsored. But my point being, at the end of the day, you can do everything right as a player, and it doesn't matter. Like that is something that can happen, because all of this is fake money, right? So like I keep stressing with Chris, while under TSM, he qualified for Capcom Cup, and they dropped him before Capcom Cup happened. He was sponsored by them throughout the season when he qualified. He qualified under their name, and then a month before Capcom Cup happened, where he could play under their name, they dropped him. So he went to Capcom Cup unsponsored. Does that not sound like they don't give a fuck about the whole point of the tour? Like, does that not show you that it doesn't matter? Like, he got the job done. He's about to represent them in the finals of the competitive circuit, which is the whole point of what we're doing, and they didn't care, right? Or like the money didn't line up, whatever. He was just another rounding error at the bottom of their spreadsheet from their cryptocurrency fund. So that's my point, is that yes, you can get dropped for bad results. Absolutely. That can happen. But you can be the best player on the planet. You can have an amazing social media presence, and it doesn't matter because these orgs don't necessarily make money from that, because it's speculative money. Like, I think a lot of people have this impression that you doing good at a tournament translates immediately to dollars in the pocket of an organization. And that doesn't work that way. Like, a lot of these orgs, what they're trying to do is finesse a way to start making income on a business model from having either like advertising packages, like, you represent this org then puts sponsors on the jersey and they get paid by those sponsors. Like, we have a partnership with Monster, with Xfinity, whatever product, an actual business is actually selling things to people. Yeah. They want to get those funds from those sponsors as part of like an advertisement package, right? And so success can help guarantee those eyeballs. They can use that to then use that as a metric to sell to the actual businesses that actually have money. And that's what a lot of these orgs are trying to figure out, is how to get in that direction. But most of them, or all of them really, are running off of speculation. It's people investing in them and hoping that this one day turns to profit. And whenever that money valve gets turned off, people who are tired of losing millions of dollars on these orgs, you get dropped, right? So my point being, we got to be in this together, right? Like, Noah right now is sponsored, but where is that money coming from?
I also think it's young player getting sponsored for the first time. I think it's a lot of like it's a first time for everything kind of situation. So I think Noah's not. I don't want to say not handling it well, because like I said, he's beating my ass at tournament. So he's doing good, and it felt like he believes his tournament results are putting him in a safe spot, because qualified for Capcom Cup, he's usually top 8 at most of the events he goes to. So he thinks that's kind of like safe, but like for someone who's been around, I'm considering myself a veteran now, but I've been around, I've seen all the stuff that goes on in like esports and all the tournaments and all that good stuff. Yeah, he could wake up tomorrow and get dropped. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but It could just randomly explode, and then everything. I mean, I could wake up tomorrow and I'm gone, and kind of thing. So you don't usually know what's gonna happen, and we gotta all play it safe and hope for the best for one another.
Yeah, I think that perspective definitely comes with time, right? Because I think most people don't understand how the esports world is it's held up on stilts and ladders. It's not. This is not secure at all, and I think. Once again, I don't want to be ragging on Noah. I'm rooting for Noah's success and everything, and he's learning how to navigate this space. Super young, brash, confident. He's going to attract a lot of unwarranted hate for sure. And I think sometimes he might speak in ways that are damaging to other people, and people won't like that. And I think he has time to correct course and figure out how he wants to navigate the space. And I believe in him, right? Maybe he can get some guidance and figure that out, and still be himself and still talk shit in game and be loud and pop off and all that, and find a way to do it in a healthy manner for himself and everybody involved. But yeah, I think Noah also now is in getting his first taste of the esports life during the next gold rush, because previously in like the 2017 era and everything, it was all just this NA venture capitalist speculation for all these OG esports teams who were banking on League of Legends and Overwatch and Street Fighter 5. They were like saying, oh, this is the next gold rush. This is going to be where all the money is. Esports is going to take over the world. And they were throwing millions of dollars at this shit, and it never turned a profit. And then we saw over COVID, a lot of teams explode. I was on CLG exploded, right? Like, a lot of teams started downsizing. I think there became a realization that, hey, maybe we can't make this work. And now a lot of these teams that existed to this day, they're all being funded by, the Saudi Arabian government, right? There's a whole Gamers Aid and Esports World Cup that has come around, and they're putting millions of dollars into the pockets of these orgs for participating in the Esports World Cup, right? But once again, this is not money that is generated from an actual tangible business. This is funding from an outside source that wants to invest in esports. It's not esports itself turning a profit. So now Noah's on Twisted Minds, right? And even TSM and like pretty much every esports team now is part of the Esports World Cup, club program, I believe it's called. And they're putting millions of dollars into these teams. So if you participate in the Esports World Cup, if you send players to the Esports World Cup, they are funding you to do that, right? They're like, all these teams are like, oh my God, we finally have money again. Right? But once again, this is not them having a business model that generates their own income. So if the Saudi Arabian government goes, never mind, we're tired of giving you guys money, we don't care about this anymore, we're going to go back to golf or whatever the fuck, like if they get tired of this, then once again, the money valve dries up and they don't have any way to actually generate income. And then everyone's on those teams can find themselves getting dropped, even if they're the best players on the planet, right? So I think that's an important perspective to keep in mind, is that no one has solved this question of how to turn success in gaming into a sustainable business to support careers long term. I don't think that exists anywhere.
I think that answer's been solved. The answer is streaming.
True.
The answer actually is just streaming. All the a lot of the super successful streamers are just ex esports player that said I'm gonna start streaming, and then boom, that's how they kind of started making their living, and they've been they may have won like a couple $100,000 playing like Counter-Strike or Valorant or whatever, and then they just say, oh, I guess I'm streaming now, and then they just sit at home and stream.
Yeah. I mean, and they do that because the instability of it all, right? Because even when those players and streamers were sponsored by orgs, there was a lot of contingency on winning, and especially in other games besides Street Fighter, there is actually like a decent amount of prizing, but it's still super top heavy, right? Like you have to win to make that money. And then on team games especially, they were competitive. What do you think?
I saw a team get 32nd in like Fortnite, and they got like 60 grand or something.
Okay, but
like
that's another.
If I got top 32 and got 60 grand, I'm not complaining.
Definitely not. They did that for like an Evo or two. A couple of Evo tournaments had like money dipping into like the top 16s, top 32s, but it wasn't like 60
No, I think top 16 this year got $600. I want to say. I think it was something like that.
That's not bad, dude. Honestly, I respect that. That's kind of nice. But I think they did that for KI or something. Like there was some other like tour sponsored thing where randomly Evos have had like top 32 and above get paid a little bit at least, but it's not consistent.
I think top 32. No, wasn't it Street Fighter 6? I believe. I think it was the first. It was the first or the second year, but I'm pretty sure like 16th got like 500 minimum.
Okay. I like that. I like that initiative. It's at least a little bit of a consolation prize. You can pay for maybe part of your hotel.
I know. Right? Pay for, that pays for like a plane ticket from New York to Vegas. That's what I got.
Hey.
I mean, even if I got 16, I didn't even get that far.
Pays for the one-way ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's still, it's better than nothing. But I mean, you brought up Fortnite though. That's another gold rush. That doesn't exist anymore, right?
No. Fortnite's going to be here for a while. That's not a gold rush. That's going to stay here for like another like 5 to 6 years, I feel like.
Are they still doing those prizes though? Because I think for a while they were doing like crazy tournaments like that where they were just throwing out money left and right. And I think that dried up. Like the esports side of Fortnite is not, I still think they have big tournaments, but what you're talking about, getting like, 5 figures for top 64, I think that's gone. I could be mistaken. So yeah, like I'm not a Fortnite expert, but in general, it's still gold rushes, right? Where's that money coming from? That money's coming from the publisher, Epic Games or whatever. Is that's who makes Fortnite, right? Yeah, that's from them making gazillion dollars on Fortnite and just saying we can afford to blow this so that people play more Fortnite. So
what you're saying is we got to get more people to play Street Fighter.
I mean, if you want to randomly get juiced up prize pools, absolutely. But not even actually. I don't even think that would matter because say tomorrow there's 1 million people playing Street Fighter 6 every day from here on out. Does that actually change Capcom's bottom line that much? Because they don't have any microtransactions for the actual competitive game. So unless they're all in Battle Hub buying Chipotle cosmetics and whatever, like Capcom's not making more money from people playing the game directly.
Well, I actually think you have to pay for the stickers, and the stickers you can use in the private lounges on the chat room. So if you put the stickers in, you're paying for the stickers that you can use in the battle lounge thing. So then, those stickers cost money. So you're getting money from the stickers that goes into the Capcom Pro. I don't know.
Maybe their monetization is just terrible, right?
Oh yeah, it's awful.
That's what I'm getting at is that Fortnite makes money because they've nailed the monetization and they have a huge player base as well. It's very popular, but even if we threw this at Capcom, I don't think they're ready for it. They're not going to capitalize on it.
I've already bought a Marvel Rival skin because the Luna Snow skin actually looked kind of cool. So I was like, yo, I gotta buy it. And then it literally just gave them my money. The game's only been out for what, 2 weeks now, and then it's something as simple as that I think Capcom really isn't taking advantage of.
And how much did that cost? I heard they were like $20.
$20. Like
wow, you spent $20 on a cosmetic skin
okay.
for a character?
Hear me out. The game is free, so I didn't spend any money already, so I might as well. I didn't pay any money to play the game, so I guess I could. It's better than me paying like $60 or $70 just for the initial launch of the game. I just got it because hey, I had some extra money.
That's how they get you, dude. That's how they probably get you to that ecosystem. I get so much value out of this game. It's just one skin, then it's just another skin, and then slowly over time, before you know it, you're a whale feeding the Marvel IP.
I think the most money I spent on a free to play game has only been like $700. It's not that much.
What? Adam, you're a whale.
No, I've seen some stories on the YouTube. I've seen this one dude spend like 200 grand on a video game. So
holy shit, you got to step
but
it up.
Capcom needs to get those whales. That's what I'm saying. They're not taking advantage of them.
That's true. That's true. Maybe it's for the better. I don't know. Maybe I mean, maybe they are going after the whales. That's the thing. They could just be everyone in Battle Hub, especially in Japan. I think that's a very popular game mode. So maybe that's what's happening. Maybe they are going where the money is, and the money is just not with us.
You think somebody spent 200 grand on the Avatar skins?
I don't know. I don't think that's possible. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's possible for people to even be whales in this game. Actually, no matter what Capcom does, there's no way to extract money from people that much. So I just don't think they're ready. Anyways, you got anything else on your mind, Adam? Any closing thoughts before we wrap up this extra little episode here?
Not really. I just think people in the FGC need to be nicer to each other. I feel like a lot of the people in the FGC are kind of toxic, and I know I made a tweet maybe like earlier in the month how the NBA Twitter is exactly like the FGC Twitter, and people are calling each other washed and all that stuff. People just need to be nicer to each other. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, but NBA Twitter is hilarious.
It is hilarious. I will say that.
So maybe we're on the right track. Everybody be more toxic. There we go. That's the answer that we all need. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on, Adam. We'll wrap it up here.
All right.
Peace.